Welcome back. This is Late Edition. Now, the Congress of South African Trade Unions has issued a Section 77 socio-economic protest action notice scheduled to take place on the 6th of October this year. Now, this in response to what it deems to be a pressing economic crisis here in South Africa. The strike is designed to address several grievances, including the prohibition of retrenchments solely for profit maximisation. Now, the strike will encompass various forms of protests, marches, as well as pickets across the country. Mr. John Botha, Joint CEO of Global Business Solutions, joins us for more. Mr. Botha, thank you so much for joining us. How can businesses prepare themselves ahead of the strike action by Cosatu in order to ensure that there is no loss of profits on their behalf?
Nisha, thank you. Good evening to you and the viewers. I think one of the key things is communication to try and establish the levels of support for the action. If we look at what happened in July, the support was not quite what was anticipated. So organizations would do well to try and establish the nature and extent of support, to try and look at multi-skilling, how to close the gaps, and then obviously potentially replacement labor.
Look, John, now you commented on the situation and basically said that any protest action arising from this notice is, of course, protected for the benefit of our viewers. Please elaborate further on this.
Absolutely. So socio-economic protest action is recognized, as you articulated, in Section 77 of the Labour Relations Act, which really means that registered trade unions, and of course Cosatu being the biggest federation, they make representations to NEDLAC. NEDLAC then considers these submissions, in this case largely driven by economic anxieties, and once NEDLAC has failed to remedy this and to find a solution, the trade union federation can give 14 days notice and then after that embark on protected action.
All right. And in terms of employers as well as employees, John, what are their rights when it comes to such a strike? Can employers then instruct their employees not to be part of the strike even though it is protected?
No, unless the employees are part of essential services, they may all go on strike, even if they're not Cosatu union members. So that's very important because often employers believe if their employees are not members of a trade union or are not members of a union that is affiliated to Cosatu, some employers believe they can't stay away, but that's wrong. This is the right of all employees because it's NEDLAC processes. Every employee has the right not to be dismissed. They won't get paid, but they won't be facing disciplinary action.
Interesting. And as we understand it, John, this strike action will obviously impact various industries and sectors across the country. Do you foresee any possible criminal elements overtaking the strike and possibly even violent outbreaks? Should we anticipate any eventuality in this at this stage?
My personal view is that that's not going to be an issue. As I said, unfortunately, workers are really feeling the economic strain. It's highly unlikely it will be a very well supported stay away. And even if it is, I believe that the primary intent this time round would really to be exercising the right to voice concerns about the ailing economy, specifically also the infrastructural challenges and corruption and crime. So I really think it's an organization in need where its members are suffering from an economic point of view. The big challenge, of course, is whether or not employers should be prohibited from retrenching purely to enhance their profits. That's the core issue here.
And then the issue of business insurance has been quite debatable since, of course, making reference to your earlier point, since the July 2021 unrest. What have you observed in terms of the trends of businesses insuring themselves so as to be able to recover quickly? Should they be affected in any way, John?
Well, exactly that. Businesses are working in a highly disruptive environment. And the challenge with that is flexibility is necessary because of the volatile and uncertain environment in which we face ourselves. So business in South Africa are definitely restructuring. I mean, even before COVID-19 hit, businesses were starting to restructure. We then lost 1.8 million jobs during COVID-19, which was a reflection of the structure of organizations. Their workforce modeling was not conducive to the flexibility required during times of significant disruption. So I think we can expect rather a lot more ideological differences emerging as we move deeper into the fourth industrial revolution.
And then, I mean, John, as we understand it, these protests are not going to be all day long. So it's 2 hours here of pickets here and there. But do you feel that such a strike action is then effective in terms of delivering the desired message to the relevant authorities?
I believe that it is, I think it is effective. I really do. You know, the reality is that everyone is joined by the concern around the economy. Even though ideologies are very different, the reality is we're growing at 0.4, 0.6% in terms of economic growth. And that concern is shared by business, labor, and government and society. I think the only issue here is that organizations could never agree to a prohibition on retrenchment in favor of driving their sustainable profitability. I mean, that's exactly what business stands for. And business creates a lot of employment off the back of that.
All right. And in closing, John, very quickly, I mean, consumers are obviously also going to be affected by the strike. Is there any advice then on how they can actually better equip themselves on how to deal with the strike action?
I just believe they need to be aware of the hotspots. Certainly in the NEDLAC notices, there are indications of what to expect. But as I said previously, I don't anticipate any criminal activity, and I believe that it's very much linked to the economic anxieties that we face in our country at present.
John, thank you so much for your insight this evening. That is Mr. John Botha, the joint CEO of Global Business Solutions, giving us some insight into the upcoming Cosatu strike.